Yo, what's up? Welcome to another build guide. So this is gonna be an easy to play, cheap Saboteur build. Fire Trap is fairly popular these days after the buffs. People mostly use Fire Trap for Righteous Fire builds to achieve more total DPS because Righteous Fire alone, I believe, cannot achieve that much because it is a damage over time skill. So damage over time skills unfortunately cannot achieve crazy DPS in this game. So this is for for the people who likes to enjoy these kind of damage over time builds. Maybe you haven't played Trap for a long time because they are not popular. The reason people play Seismic Trap is because it is simply broken even after the nerfs. So this is another example. I actually did lots of Fire Trap build over the years, but I actually also stopped playing Fire Trap these days because the Seismic Trap is way better. But this is a damage over time build. This is not a crit build, so a different approach. I believe this build is popular in hardcore. That is where my friend found the build. This is my friend's character. I will just comment, on it. You do a commentary. I played it for a couple of hours. Also killed Uber Maven, you already watched. That was my first attempt, and I was actually not comfortable with the build, let's say, because I only played like 1 or 2 hours. I actually misclicked, and one of my deaths, I believe, because of that. I tried to flame dash, and I actually pressed Eternal Blessing, Divine Blessing, whatever it is, Malevolence instead, and I was just dead. Alright, let's start with the skill itself. Fire Trap. So this skill has 2 damage portions. First of all, it hits as, an initial burst damage, so that can actually crit, but this is not a crit build. We are not, we don't have to worry about that part. After that, it just leaves a ground effect, a burning ground effect that you can also see from other monsters in the game. There was also a map modifier that applies burning ground to everywhere. So this is similar to that. It's a burning damage plus damage over time. That is the same thing. So the things that buff this build: damage over time, spell damage, because Fire Trap says that modifiers to spell damage also apply to this skill's damage over time effect. Because it says that you can also get spell damage. If the skill didn't have that sentence, that statement, we couldn't get spell damage because that is not how dot builds work. So yeah, that is a unique aspect about the skill. Some skills have that, Essence Drain, Blight, I believe. Those kind of skills also say that. So you can get spell damage, elemental damage, fire damage, damage over time. I believe those kind of stuff. Damage over time multiplier, fire damage over time multiplier. So there are some good DPS stats that you can get for this build. So most damage comes from the burning ground effect, but this skill can also ignite. So there's also going to be an ignite damage. So once we combine both, you can just achieve some good DPS in the end. So the support gems are going to be based on that, and also some gem level. So consider getting a empower. Later on, you can just start with a level 3, then level 4. Other gems should be fairly cheap because this is a trap build anyways, and I cannot see much awakened gems. There's only burning damage. Other gems doesn't even have awakened versions. So why Saboteur? Let's just check that. Pyromaniac, Immune, Ignite, and Shock. Combine this with Brine King, maybe. So you can also be Frozen Immune. So you're gonna be immune to basic elemental ailments. Also regenerate life, so which is nice because you throw a couple of fire traps if you want, and bam, 2% each. You can just easily get that 10% if you just spam 5 traps. Perfect Crime. Damage for each trap, trigger additional time. So that is mostly for mapping actually, because damage over time effects cannot stack actually. Chain Reaction, easier to trigger your traps. So mostly that for that, nothing crazy actually. Burning Shadows, so this is good for defense. Nearby enemies are blinded. That means that they will have less accuracy and evasion rating. So accuracy is important, so you can actually dodge, evade more stuff. Also reduce damage taken from blinded enemies. So here's a funny thing. My friend didn't want to spend much because he works full day, he just plays a couple of hours in the evenings. So he usually plays low budget builds, maybe medium budget builds. So he actually skips suppress entirely. This build doesn't even have any suppress, because suppress gear, as you know, can be pretty much expensive if you also want to put some good other stats for DPS, those kind of stuff. I'm just checking in the Peto building right now. He has 0 suppress, but he's actually very tanky against spells, so here is the reasons. Burning Shadows provides reduced damage taken from blinded enemies. This works for every damage type. He has Forbidden, Flame, and Flesh Jewels. He said that they are not expensive right now, but I'm not sure about the prices. because I haven't checked, but he just bought those for, I believe, a couple of Exile, maybe something like that. They were cheap. He uses Assassin's Opportunistic. More damage, while at most one rare or unique enemy nearby, so that's for obviously more DPS. Reduced damage taken, while there are at least 2 rare or unique enemy. So this is also gonna work in invitations, I believe. So this also provides some damage mitigation and DPS at the same time. And finally, shield, a 1 chaos item, Kongming's Stratagem, or I don't know how to pronounce, maybe that was correct or not. Fire damage with hits and ailments against blinded enemies. Saboteur already blind, so that will provide us some DPS. Reduce spell damage taken from blinded enemies. So this will also get stack, I believe, with the other defensive mechanics that I just showed you. So combining all these, you are actually tanky against spells. This character can actually tank Eradicator's lightning attacks. Most builds without suppress obviously just die to that. If the map also has some mods, you will just insta die. But this character just can't face tank. I don't know. These 3 defensive layers together, I will just also put the pictures again at the same time. Probably equal to suppress or something. I don't know. So consider maybe getting even some suppress from the talent tree. Maybe some items. Because I can see that the gloves, the helmet, I believe, yeah, they are the only pieces. Those 2 pieces are actually rare. So maybe if you can put like 20% and maybe some get on the talent tree, you can easily achieve at least 50-60% suppress. So more spell mitigation. So yeah, even with that suppress, this build is super tanky against spells. You are already tank against attacks because we use Determination, Defiance Banner, and Grace Aura at the same time with a skin of the Lord's body armor. I don't know the price about this color combination. I will just check first of all the gem setup. Let's see if there are some other good spell. What's that? Gems. Cruelty support, so another red maybe instead of maybe trap and mine damage if this color combination is expensive. Because Skin of Lord, Loyal, those chests cannot be modified. So there are actually cruelty support, Swift Affliction. So yeah, you maybe consider getting other color combinations if this is expensive. My friend's body armor doesn't even have any crazy implicits or whatever. He didn't get any implicits. He just bought a Skin of Lords because it provides plus 2 gems. But again, you can also get Skin of Loyal with the same color combination as Corrupted maybe for some implicits if you have the budget. Plus 1 gem, plus 2 trap mine gems, those kind of stuff. Percentage damage. I don't know, anything that you can think of if you want to min-max the build later on. So with this body armor, grace, determination, those kind of stuff, you will have huge armor and evasion at the same time. I can see that he has at least 20k on both of those. So you are also going to be tanky against attacks. I could easily tank, Drox, Minotaur, those kind of bosses. Obviously, this is a trap build, so you should also try dodging them. You don't try to face tank everything, obviously. So the character is going to be good for defenses in the end. Obviously, getting Chaos Resist is going to be some luxury. Maybe you can work on that if you want. This build, this character doesn't have much Chaos Resist, so maybe consider getting more Chaos Resist. Maybe spend a couple of extra on a couple of your rare items to fix Chaos Resist if you think that you also need that. So let's just finish the build guide. I will just explain the rest of the items. Weapon. So this is a damage over time build. Also against gem levels works. So plus 1 fire spell gems, plus 1 spell gems, damage over time multiplier, fire damage over time multiplier, fire damage, spell damage, because fire trap says spell damage also modifies damage over time. So these are the good stats. Fracture items are common on the market right now. Maybe get a fractured plus 1 fire spell or all spell gem item. It can be a scepter, it can be a wand, it doesn't matter. Because wands have spell damage implicit, which will work. Scepters have elemental damage implicit, that will also work for this build. After that, you can use maybe Scorch fossils to get those fire over time, fire damage, flat fire, those kind of stuff maybe. Or just use alteration crafts, try to hit another plus 1 gem maybe. Or maybe try to hit damage over time multiplier. And maybe multi-mode the rest of the stats, fire over time, fire damage, spell damage, whatever you can fit. So those are the good stats. If the, I don't know, my friend crafted this on his own, you know, by alteration spam, those kind of stuff. But maybe there are already some options on the market. I don't know. You just check. Maybe start with a lower budget. Because damage in the end is good for a damage over time build. Can easily achieve at least 6 million, 7 million dot DPS, which is enough to do the regular content easily. I also did again a Uber Maven because that is the easiest. Unfortunately, you cannot push most damage over time builds far, let's say. So new Uber content is probably hard for these kind of builds. Even the usual builds cannot do most of the new Uber bosses because they are super hard, actually. Helmet. For the enchant, fire trap, burning damage. Again, because this is a damage over time build. Just life, resistances. That is what you should consider getting. Again, maybe if you want to squeeze in some suppress. Also, this is a rare piece, so try to get a suppress on your helmet if you want. But you will need an evasion base, so you can actually hit suppress. Later on, he used, what's that, Eater of Worlds and Searing Exarch, E-Cores, Embers, whatever they are called. Flammability curse effect, that is one of the curse choices this build has, because flammability lowers the fire resist of the enemy. And also he put, what's this, enemies you have hit recently have reduced life regeneration rate. So this mainly works for Maven invitations or Maven witnessed bosses, because Maven can actually heal bosses if she just, you know, grants her boon or whatever it is called to the target. So that can actually be a little problematic. So if you want to do those kind of Maven bosses, consider getting these two combination at the same time. Or if you think anything else is better, obviously go for that. This is how my friend played this build. Glows. Again, this is a rare piece. Maybe consider getting suppress. This build needs a little bit dexterity. But right now I can see that this character has way more dexterity than he should have actually. So without the gloves, we only need 15 dexterity. Maybe some of the other pieces also provide that. We will see in a second. So yeah, if you still need dexterity, rings, amulet, gloves, any rare piece that you can think of are actually good source to get some. Again, suppress, maybe if you can do that. After that, life and resistances. Again, the same stuff. Searing Exarch and Eater of Worlds implicit, because they are actually really easy to craft on gloves. Fire exposure on hit. Easy way to apply exposure. There is actually also fire damage over time multiplier, I believe, on the implicit. There is also ignite, you inflict spread to other enemies, so it is good for mapping actually. So this kind of stuff, this is simply super easy to craft. Shouldn't cost you more than 1 exalt. You know, just buy a good base, use some what's that, influence, E-Cores, whatever they are, you know, Searing Exarch, Eater of Worlds, super easy to craft. Boots, Legacy of Fury. Nearby enemies are scorched. That means that they will have lower resistances. Also increase effect of Scorch. And also when you kill a scorched enemy, you inflict a burn, I believe, something like that. 8% of the killed enemy's life as fire damage per second. You can easily see this while mapping. Just check some of the clips. Maybe they are running at the back right now. You can see that we actually have an explosion effect. I believe that is it. Because this is the first time I'm playing with this boots, because I don't play much damage over time builds. So this simply makes the mapping process faster and more enjoyable, let's say. So this is a 1 chaos boots right now. This can be expensive at league starts, because Righteous Fire builds also use this. But after like a week, bam, 1 chaos. Maybe you can also get some corruptions, because it is super cheap. Yeah, that's it. Amulet. Again, damage over time multiplier, maybe fire damage over time multiplier. They can all exist on amulets. +1 gems, +1 fire gems, all gems, those kind of stuff. Life resist, strength or dexterity if you still need. So yeah, that's about it. For the anoint, he picked Ash, Frost and Storm. Effect of non-damage ailments, elemental damage. Probably he wanted to increase the effect of Scorch, I guess. That's my guess. If you think something else is better, just check Path of Building, because Path of Building already tells you what to anoint. You can just hit damage, you know, sort by DPS, something like that, and it will just show you this is the best, this is the second best, something like that. So just check your own Path of Building, maybe anoint something else. Rings. 1 ring is obviously a rare ring. To keep your, you know, again, if you still need strength, dexterity, this is a good place to put it. resist, life. That's pretty much it. If you want to squeeze in some DPS, damage over time multiplier, or fire damage, you can maybe get some fractured rings, maybe with some dexterity or whatever you are needing, maybe some high resist or life, because fracture craft is actually really popular right now thanks to the recombinators. So after that you can actually use essence to craft fire damage, those kind of stuff. So maybe I will just put a couple of essence options on the screen. So consider crafting your own rings, maybe if you want, but rings should be actually easy to buy from other players, because this build is actually, again, a low budget build. You can just get any item on the market for less than 1 Exile, most of the time, let's say. Other ring, Polaric Devastation. First of all, you need to use this on your left ring slot. It is the first ring slot, alright? So you can actually cover enemies in ash for 5 seconds when you ignite them. So that actually increases the fire damage taken on the enemy. So more DPS for our damage over time. Any fire damage dealing stuff, you know. Good for DPS. Just get one once you can afford it. Finally, belt. A non-influence belt just to keep resist, I believe. Life resist. So maybe later on you can get influence belts or Stygian vises. So you can actually also use an abyss jewel. On, I believe, what is that, warlord bases, there is percentage fire damage. Maybe you can also work on that if you want. And also on shaper bases there is elemental damage percentage. So they can be actually good to increase DPS. This belt, as you can see, doesn't provide any DPS at all, because this is a low budget build. I'm not gonna talk about talent tree. I wanted to keep this build video, you know, guide short as possible. There is actually nothing to explain. This build doesn't even use any clusters. I'm just using those Forbidden Flesh and Flame combination with Opportunistic and a Watcher's Eye. Only 3 jewel slots. Character was 94 levels. So if you are a higher level, maybe you can get more jewel slots, those kind of stuff. That should be it. Thanks for watching. More guides will obviously come soon. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new to the channel. And also don't forget to join my Discord. It is where I chat with people and discuss builds, you know, your questions, whatever you have in your mind, alright? Make sure you are in my Discord. If you are feeling generous, consider checking my Patreon to support the channel. I will see you later. Bye bye.